So, sir, we are live on Zoom now, and hopefully people would be joining in. So there are people who are joining in. So 11, 12. So we'll give 1 minute to join, and then I'll give you a clue, and you can start.
Okay.
Just we'll allow like 1 minute for people to join in. So I can see some 30 odd participants already.
Good.
Probably, Negi, so we can start. People would keep on coming, right?
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody.
Very good afternoon.
It's my pleasure to welcome you all to this expert talk that the Shulini University organizes. Shulini, before we introduce our speaker of the day, I'd like to talk something about Shulini University because some of you may be new to the university. I would like to say that Shulini University is a young university, young, energetic, and at the same time small. It has the small campus, but beautiful campus as well. But within 10 years of time, it's my privilege to share with you that Shulini University has got laurels from international as well as national agencies. Recently, we had NIRF ranking, and Shulini University ranks among the first 200 universities in the country, and that's a matter of pride for all of us. And also, we have our pharmacy, School of Pharmacy, which has consistently been ranked very high at the national level. And this year also we have 39th rank, and which is a very prestigious rank given the number of institutions that applied for NIRF ranking. At the same time, we have engineering school, which is again a young school, but it ranked 112th in the country. Given the number of engineering college, this is a laudable achievement for a small young university, and we are sharing it with all of you so that we understand that what Shulini is doing. Then we have a management, School of Management Sciences, and in this case, we got a very high ranking again, consistently for the third year and so, and we are ranked in the bracket of 76 to 100. And that's a matter of pride for young, small university to get this ranking at the national level. Another thing that I want to share with you all is that the achievements of the university in the field of science. In fact, the Shulini University is known for sciences only. It has made a mark in the field of science research, and throughout the country. In fact, we are now rubbing shoulders with international organizations, international universities and research organizations which are reputed throughout the world. And I'm happy to share with you that our H index is 58, and our field weighted citation index is 2.02. In fact, university had a vision to be amongst the global 200 universities by 2022, and we are marching towards that goal. And we are very hopeful that we'll achieve that goal. Again, I would like to share here with you that recently we got evaluated ourselves from the same agency which works for the Times Higher Education ranking framework, and we got a very high rank in that. So it gives us confidence that in times to come, we'll be there as a force to reckon with at the international level also. And also in the same ranking, we have been shortlisted for Asia's top universities this year as well. So School of Agriculture, let me say something about School of Agriculture also of the university. It's a very nascent one. We are in the second year of our program. And again, it's my proud privilege to share with you that we have got the bright students and the best facilities that we can have for agriculture in the region. And we can compare ourselves with any of the institution, academic institution or university offering agriculture courses in our neighborhood. Our laboratories are up to date and our fields are up to date. At the same time, we have got our program tuned to the requirement or guidelines of the fifth Dean's Committee of ICAR. So we are not budging an inch from their guidelines. And then it gives me confidence that in times to come, our students would be able to compete at the national level with any of the, in their fraternity, with any of the students from any of other institute. With this, I would like to stop here for some time and then give the platform to Dr. S.K. Gupta, professor in the School of Agriculture, very renowned plant pathologist. And recently he got awards for his Shada Lele award also. And we congratulated him. So I think, I thought that I should bring that to your notice as well. He will introduce our guest of expert talk today, and Mr. Rakesh Kumar Goel, who is Vice President Production. And further to you, Dr. Gupta, please. Dr. Gupta, I think you are muted. Dr. Gupta, you are muted, I think.
You unmuted, sir, please.
Again muted, I think.
He is muted. Dr. Kamal, he is muted.
Gupta, sir, I'll unmute you. You just please give me 1 minute.
Okay, now.
Good afternoon, everybody. It gives me an immense pleasure to introduce Mr. Rakesh Kumar Goel, who is Vice President Sumitomo Company of Japan and working as a product development manager in that university. And he is alumnus of Chaudhry Charan Singh Haryana Agriculture University, Hisar. And since 1983 onwards, I think he is working in private companies. Initially, he joined in Sandoz. Then that company was merged with Ciba Geigy. Then it was further renamed as Novartis, and now it is again renamed as Syngenta. And he worked there for 25 years. And he was product development manager for Southeast Asian countries also. And in 2011, he joined this present company, that is Sumitomo company of Japan. And since 2011, he is working as Vice President Product Development, and he is looking after the works of this company for product development throughout the country in India. And the progress of this company is very good, and under the leadership of Mr. Rakesh Goel. I think I hand over the mic to the, again welcome Dr. Rakesh, and give you the mic to share your opinion.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Gupta, for the nice introduction. And thanks, Negi Saab, for giving this opportunity to have this talk for the students and faculty. So the topic at hand is, I will discuss about the role of plant protection in agriculture and the recent trends, impact of COVID, like zero budget farming, organic farming, and then at last about our company, what company is doing for the organic farming and for this community as a whole. So if we see, yeah. if we go to the agriculture, actually, if everybody knows that before Green Revolution, India was the country where lot of famines were there. And famines mostly were due to the sufficient food for our population. And sometimes some pest came, sometime drought is there. So country was facing a lot. I think the famine of 1943 must be remembered by everybody, when almost 3 million people died out of 6 million due to this famine, only because of a shortage of food and supply chain, lot of factors. So, but now, after the onset of this green revolution during 1960s and 70s, you see there is a tremendous increase in the food production, which enables India as a self-sufficient in food. But there are certain things for green revolution because of introduction of high yielding varieties, introduction of chemical fertilizers, introduction of pesticide, and so many things, change in the government policies. So now I think famine in India, once accepted as inevitable, have not returned since introduction of green revolution in India. And earlier, actually, there was no technology. All the old methods for the farming were going on. And now there is a gradual change. And we are doing now one of the best agriculture in the world, I can say, in many fields. You see, why crop protection is required? Because when we have crops which are high yielding, giving high yield to us, then naturally they require more fertilizer. When we are applying more fertilizer, more insect and pest or disease will come to the crop. So it has been observed that almost 30,000 species of weeds, 3,000 species of nematodes, and more than 10,000 species of plant-eating insects, they harm our crop. And we have numerous fungus flora which hinders our production. But at the same time, at the moment, India has a very good molecules. We have very good in plant protection, but still lot of other factors. Just presence of a molecule is one aspect, but there are different aspects. Still, we are now losing our 20 to 40% production, being such a good molecules in India. And these losses are due to maybe application is faulting, time of application is faulty, or maybe in the storage or in the transport. So more 20 to 40% losses are still there, which is a very big loss. During 2014, a study was conducted by Ashochem and Yes Bank together. It was very expensive study, and it was revealed that around 50,000 rupees loss every year due to pest and disease infestation. I see, yes, pesticides, they increase our yield, but it's more of important that we should also have safe and effective pesticide, and their use should be very judicious. It's very critical to sustain increase in agriculture production and productivity. Yeah. And you know, pesticides are not only especially insecticides for the field crops, it's also for other purpose like controlling vector responsive disease like malaria. So a lot of pesticide is going on in this sector only. If we see pesticide, we always say we should have very good molecule. We are trying very hard, but I just wanted to elaborate that development of a pesticide is not an easy process. That's why whether it is pharmaceutical or whether it is whether agrochemicals, everybody wants, okay, we should have new molecules, but development of a new molecule is not that easy. Even we don't have a lab for the development of new molecules in India, because it's very expensive affair. We have to screen almost 1.4 lakh molecules to come out with a single novel molecule. So, and expenses are very high. Average is around 210 million USD from inception to consumption. This is the expense for a single molecule. And sometime after doing all this, you know, situation changes. Why situation changes? Because it takes around 9.1 year to conceptualize a product for end use. So it's a very big time, means the management, the people involved in the R&D, they have to think 10, 12 years after what will happen, because there may be a resistance problem, pest nature may change, crops may change. So many things, keeping in mind what will happen after 10 to 12 years, because molecule is coming in the market only after 10 to 12 years. So my mean here is it's very tough to develop new molecule in the present scenario. In India, if we see, we have because of temperature and weather factors here, we have maximum problems of insect pest, then come fungicide, and herbicide. Being labor is cheap, but now in the present scenario, the use of herbicide is also increasing. Biopesticide and others like nematode, bactericide, etc. are also used. So total 60% of the pesticide we are using insecticide. Fungicides covers around 18%, herbicides 16%, biopesticides recent, actually many biopesticides are coming in the market, their effectiveness and everything is just under evaluations, and others we have 3%. This is the scenario of the pesticides we are using. Now let's see the yield pattern in the world, where we stand and why we stand. That is a big challenge for us. You see, in India, if we take the paddy, I have taken the major crops, paddy, maize and wheat. If you see the paddy, the average yield of our country, it is 3.62 metric tons per hectare. But if we compare it with any other agriculture dependent country, or where agriculture is in a good area, large area, Brazil, Russia, China, Japan, and USA. You see, it is in USA, the average yield of paddy is 8.663 metric tons. If you compare with Japan, it is 6.7. And if we compare with China, it is also around 6.935. Russia, 5.897, and Brazil. So there is a lot of scope where by using good agriculture practices, we can also, there is a big scope to increase the yield. If we take the maize, same is the case with maize. We are, I think, lowest in these countries, and our average yield is 2.603 metric tons. If we compare it with the USA, where it is 1.0948 or 10.948 metric tons per hectare. In Brazil, it is 5.27. Our nearest competitor, China, it is 8.861. So there is a big scope in maize also. If we see wheat, we are little bit okay, but still, if we compare in wheat with China, we are far behind China. Our average yield is 3.151 metric tons per hectare, but China, it is 5.349. So same is the situation in vegetable and other crops. I mean, we have lot of scope to increase our yield. If we see the pesticide consumption pattern, in pesticide, India is the lowest. I think it is only 0.6 kg of AI per hectare. If you compare it any other countries like UK, it is 5 kg per hectare, France 5, Korea it is 7 kg per hectare, even USA it is 7 kg per hectare. Talking Japan, China and Taiwan, where consumption is very high. Taiwan is 17 kg per hectare. So you see, it is 25-30 times more consumptions of pesticide in the countries. I didn't mean that we should increase or we should go to that extent, but definitely whatever need is there, there should be, we should go for that, and we should have proper use for that. So at the moment, we are the least user of pesticide in India. If we see the Indian pesticide market in India is of rupees 400 billion, out of which export market is more than the domestic use. It's 220 billion, including US and Europe. Our export, we are exporting to more than 60 countries, where Europe and US, which are the very follower countries. So we are exporting lot of chemicals to these countries also. During 1920-25, it is expected that growth will be around 8.7% per annum. And India is the world's 4th manufacturer of agrochemical after the US, Japan, and China. So because we are using domestic as well as we are exporting, so manufacturer, we are the 4th largest manufacturer in the world. In India, there are many companies, but around 125 companies are listed for agrochemicals in India. You see the top 10 companies and their business in India. This is May 31, 2020 data. UPL, it's a 33,000 crore business UPL is doing, but they have very good export business and some other division also. BASF is having more than 7,000 crore business. Pesticide India, 3,316 crore. And if we see Bayer, 3,280 crores. Sumitomo, from which I belong, it is more than 2,000 crore. Make Money, 2,229 crores. Rallies also, it's more than 2,000 crore. Then Insecticide India, Bharat Rasayan and Dhanuka, they have more than 1,000 crore business in India. So I think there is a big scope in this industry because growth is there, and at the same time, need for pesticide is there. Definitely good molecules are required which are safe to environment, safe to crop. So that thing is now in consideration. Almost companies are bringing new molecules which are in green triangle and quite safe molecule. Now challenge in crop protection due to COVID-19. Definitely this has disrupted all the sectors, all the business. COVID has a big impact, and I don't say agri is tentacles of COVID-19 has left agriculture. Agriculture also has a big impact of COVID-19. Though government policies are very favorable to this lockdown period and after very favorable for agriculture, but still there are many challenges which are coming out of different other associated business with agriculture. First of all, I would like to say then production, supply chain, labor availability, and product prices. These are the major challenges. And if we see production, plant capacity, because during this period, plants were not working at their full capacity. They are working 10-20% capacity. So production was not at a full scale, but at the same time, material was not there. Some of the intermediates were not there. So lot of problem in production. Labor, big problem, which I will discuss in detail later. So if we see most of the technicals, we are dependent, import dependent. So the COVID problem was there also. So it also delays. So many factors have come, and production was impacted to a large extent during this period. But I can say government has done a lot, giving permission for production and everything was going on. But still other factors, which we cannot produce as much, which is demanded or required. And if you ask me, big multinational companies, they have well planning. So they also face problem, but not as big as local import, as local manufacturer, because they have to import each and everything, or they have to take technical from other companies. So during that period, it was a very tough time for them. Supply chain, import of raw material. Supply chain, if you see, supply chain is a very big challenge. Supply chain not only here. Suppose we are importing a product from China and supply chain there is disturbed. We are importing a product from US. Their supply chain is not working. So product will not be in our reach. Some of the intermediates we are asking from other countries. Very difficult during that period. Product reach. If we see product reach for the end customer, it takes more than 2.5 months after import of a molecule. Then it will be formulated, then it will be packed, then it will be labeled, then it will come to it will come to the state's godowns, then it will go to the distributor, then it will go to the dealer, and then the farmers will use. So it takes a lot of time. I say 2 to 2.5 months for this. So it was disturbed totally during this period. Transportation challenges, big challenge. Drivers were not there, transport were not there, boundaries, restriction of boundaries from one state to other states were there. But still, due to government policies, though they allowed, but still there were a lot of challenges from district to district, some cantonment area. So transport challenge was a big challenge during this COVID. Higher prices. because plants were not working at full capacity. As allowed, sometime 20% plants were working at their capacity. Laborers are not there. Increased cost of raw material because of availability, high labor cost. So labor was a big problem. Uh, Higher transportation cost. So all these factors were there for the higher prices. If you ask me, I will come to this slide. I will say, yeah, labor availability and cost, more dependence neighboring labor. You see now in north, labor is not available because that labor is coming from other eastern states like Calcutta, Bihar. So more dependence on neighboring labor. Then migration of labor, big setback during this period. Labor cost will also increase actually. But if we see opportunities and way forward, but I would like to say, but farmers will not face any problem due to the initial month like this June and July, because already stocks were there and they have reached herbicide. I don't see there won't be any problem. But in the later stage, let us see how this COVID things are going on. So that will decide. Yeah. Now opportunities and way forward. What are the opportunities? There are big opportunities like mechanization and technology. Here I would say, due to COVID, lot of mechanization is coming. Technological peoples are getting upgrade. What were the major factors? Labor shortage, cultivation practices, customer contacts. All those things are changing, like labor shortage. Now, paddy transplanting season has come, but I think labor, most of the labor has migrated to their native places. Labor is short. And if we see, we require around 8 laborers to transplant 1 acre of paddy. So labor is not there. How we will transplant our paddy? What will happen now? Mechanization technology role is coming. In Punjab, we are trying for the direct seeded rice for the last 20 years. And till now, the area under direct seeded rice is hardly 50,000 hectare. So there is no change. But due to this sudden change, because with direct seeding rice, the purpose was to save the water. Earlier purpose was to save the water. But now purpose is different. Water is there, but now because labor is not there to transplant the field, so government has taken a target to convert 25% area under direct seeding rice. And I am telling, if not 25%, but still a good amount will go to the direct seeding rice, because there was no labor to transplant the field. So it will be a good opportunity for going for mechanization and technology. Second thing, yeah, cultivation practices, transplanting to, we will come with direct seeding. Customer contacts, because in agriculture field, most of our customers are not well acquainted with the practices, with the chemicals, with the fertilizer, everything. Actually government agencies and private industry executives, they are going to villages, talking to them and have interaction to tell them about how to use, when to use, what dose they should use, all those things. But now, because there may be travel restrictions, it will be difficult to have customer contacts. But at the same time, now technologically, people are using Zoom meetings are there, training by Zoom. All the farmers are having this mobile phone, latest mobile phone. So contact, they are using those things. Some growers are sending now, you can say, pictures of the pest and other on the WhatsApp, what to do. Things are coming. Earlier, we are dealing with one product when we are going to the customer or government about the phase of the crop which was going on, talk about that. But now entire crop solutions are coming. So there is a big change in mechanization and technology. This is a big opportunity for us. If we see in the Punjab newspaper, it was Punjab government looks to bring 25% paddy area under direct seeded rice. So they have sanctioned 4,000 machine on subsidy. Government is very active, and farmers are getting very nice education for direct seeding rice from the agencies, and machinery is going. They are getting other incentive also. So I think this will be a big change. You see the transplanting which was going on, how many labor I told we require to transplant acre, but now this transplanter are coming. You see the farmers standing behind to see there is a curiosity, and now this is increasing, and a paddy transplanter is also increasing. Labeling, I could see the every farmer is going with the laser labeling. So these are the direct seeded machine. Purpose is that now farmers will change themselves fast, because nature uh, brings something good also whenever there is something bad. So it comes something very good for us. So this technological change is coming very fast. In agriculture, overall agriculture, if we see the crisis of this COVID-19, everybody knows agriculture is backbone of our economy, because it is the only primary sector which generates employment. Around 50% of the people are involved in agriculture or its allied sectors. There are many allied industries depending on the agriculture. Rural population depending on agriculture and allied sector have become first sufferer actually. Though everybody has a sufferer, everybody has to suffer, but rural population is more sufferer because their dependency is 100% on agriculture or its allied sectors. The agri and horticulture produce, which are mostly perishable, have rotten in the field due to lack of transportation and marketing. I will give a live example. In Nasik, there is a big grape area, and they produce quality of grapes even better than any other countries where grape is taken as a crop. And they are exporting, most of the grapes are they are exporting to European countries which are very sensitive to pesticide and other things, take everything as per their standard. So most of the our produce is exported to those countries. But due to this COVID problem, there was no export, no transport. Even farmers for the local consumption, for the domestic consumption, labor was not there to pluck the berries of the grape from the vines, and it's a very tough time. Nobody was taker. At the same time, it's a very bad period actually we have seen, because farmers, grape growers, they were ready to taken the berries from the vines, because they again want to prune and train their vines to take further crop for the next crop. But labor was in a very scarcity at that period. Same was the case in tomato. Farmers could not sell even at rupees 2 per kg, because there was no taker, no transport, nothing. So they have just wasted and put in the field. So this period, I don't say that COVID-19 did not have any impact, but here government policies are quite favorable to agriculture. Like they have put some big 1.7 trillion on agriculture, and putting some cash money in the farmer, so that farmers account where they can buy some seed and other things, because cash is a big problem. If I see what FAO is thinking, because food is also a big problem now. You see the Vietnam, which is third largest rice exporter, has stopped exports, which may reduce the global rice export by 15%. This is the FAO prediction, that 15% it will have impact to reduce the global rice export. And I think if India and Thailand ban export on rice, prices may rise sharply. We can't say where they will go. So this impact is bird over of this COVID-19. But here also new opportunities in agriculture and allied sectors. I think according to CCI, by 2022, retail market in country food retail may occupy 70% of the market. Retail marketing in agriculture is going like anything. I am telling, in the few years you will see this retail marketing for agri business will go like anything. Why it will go? Because now people, they are liking ready-made food. So they don't want that raw material should come and they should cook at their house and everything. This ready-to-eat food market will increase like anything. Somebody was predicted that it will cross 80% ready-to-eat market. And what I feel, this is my personal view, badly affected micro, small and medium enterprises sector will make effort to promote agri business and the agri industrial sector. So I think there is a lot of big scope in agriculture, because when other industry will also try to come into this sector. There are many agro-based industries you see. food and beverage, tobacco, paper and work, textile, leather, rubber. So when agriculture have a big scope actually, not only in agriculture, but its allied sectors. At the moment, a lot of, I think this refrigerators and a lot of other making juice and other things industries will come in beverages. So this is the need of the time, because people have seen the wastage of tomato. If they have industry at their own, so they can produce some juice, they can produce some ketchup, like grape. If we have more wineries, so we can have in that direction. So I think people will think in this direction, and these are the, I think, long-term direction also. What the long-term directions on this sector for the development of agriculture: improve the labor and land productivity. This is very important. Land and water use. Lot of work is going on water use now. You see, this micro irrigation is coming, but it will take some time because it's expensive. But governments are providing huge subsidy, and farmers are coming. Drip irrigation is very popular in the grapes and other area. It will come here also, taking some time, but it's a long-term process. Food processing and value addition, yeah, and then development of rural industry. These, all those things will have a very positive impact on agriculture in future. If we see agriculture as career choice in post-pandemic era, uh, everybody knows that agriculture, I'm very frank in saying this, has never been an, I think, top of the mind of our younger generation, of our intelligent brain. People like to go to engineering, they like IIT, they like medical profession, they like to be CA, this commerce. But agriculture was never been the so, I will say, so preferred field for our young generation. But I think now, as the newspaper is showing agriculture as career choice in post-pandemic area, it will change the future for agriculture in this direction also. Now, we will talk something about zero budget farming and how it is performing and how it is started. I think technically, if I say it is zero budget natural farming, in zero budget farming, what we'll do, we will have our local seed, fertilizer like cow dung fertilizer we are using. For the pest, we are using this material of plant extract like neem extract and some other plant extract. But this is a very new technology. We have to see this evolved as a farming movement in Karnataka as a result of collaboration between agriculturist Subhash Palekar, one agriculturist, and their state farmer associations. The promise of zero budget farming, I think our finance minister also mentioned this time about zero budget farming in her speech. It promised to cut down farming expenditure drastically and end dependence on loans. It encourages use of own seed and locally available natural fertilizer. The model is being tried in Karnataka and other southern Indian states. So if we see, actually it is not a zero budget farming. Major expenses farmer has to incur like on water, electricity, pump, seed, manpower, even organic inputs like cow dung, cow urine, plant extract, and compost doesn't come at a free of cost. Now we see the whether the cow dung which is being recommended in this is enough to provide the nutrient for this our varieties for taking the desired production, and whether these plant extracts are enough to treat our seed where diseases are very high. Actually seed treatment is very important, and when the pest come, so all those things we have to see. Actually I think, however, large scale research is required on yield part, testing of plant etc for effectiveness against pest and disease. So it's very important, it's a very good thing. Actually when we start something, so something new will come, things will change. But at the moment, large scale testing, because we cannot compromise with the yield at all, looking into our population strength, so we cannot compromise on the yield part. So similar, if we see the organic farming, if you ask me, organic farming, traditionally India is for organic farming. Green, only during green revolution period we used more chemical fertilizer and pesticide, because that was the need of the time. What happened during that? A lot of new varieties came, high yielding varieties came. High yielding in variety means they require more fertilizer, more chemical fertilizer. When fertilizer is more, yield is more, crop duration is more. So pest and disease attack is also very high. Then pesticides are required. So otherwise, organic agriculture has always been India's inherent strength. But the yield part, we are working on a very high on organic farming. Government is after organic farming. Everybody is talking now because increase in our economic condition and the shift in the global consumption pattern, health conscious, improve economic condition, and increasing significance of sustainability is now putting organic produce at the forefront. Now everybody is talking about this, about organic farming. But I see till now, till moment, we have only 0.4% area under organic cultivation, which constitutes 1.5 million hectare only of the land till now. So worldwide, I will show you the picture what is going on. You see uh, the area under this blue color and with the white marker, it is area million hectares, and this is the percentage of the total cultivated area. From 1990 means after 21 years, our area has increased to only 1.4% of total cultivated area. You see where almost including USA, including European countries, the talks very high, but our area is not increasing. Area under organic agriculture is not on increase. Why? There are many factors which I have shown. You see, what is this? Organic farming, what is the challenge? Low yield. With organic farming, actually, we cannot take yield as with our chemical fertilizer or pesticides. Very low yield we are getting with organic farming. So farmer can't afford, and sometimes farmer don't get the prices of their produce to that extent. So it's very difficult. I know there are many varieties. There was even in wheat, so there was no pest, but yield was so low that the prices is fetching from the market does not match. Output marketing is a very big problem. Available and quality of biomass. You see, biomass is not readily available, and the quality is not there, because you see the cow dung and all, they are used as energy, fuel energy. So we are not getting that much. Inadequate sporting infrastructure. Yeah, now organic certification we have good on vegetables and fruit crops, but still other crops are lacking. Lot of things are required on this. Availability of organic plant protection molecules. Organic plant protection molecule is a big challenge. Though we have some molecules, but we can use in alteration with the our chemicals. Though a lot of work is going on this direction. Even our company, I will show you what our company is doing in developing organic plant protection molecules. It's rated #1 in the world actually. High input cost. Some of the chemicals, organic chemicals, even expensive than other chemicals, other pesticides. So this also sometimes hinders the farmers to go with these things. Quality of produce and acceptability. Like you see, because in Himachal I have seen there is a lot of scale problem, Sanjo scale problem on apple. But farmers is using some oil, some pesticides. But if we don't use those things, so those produce is not accepted by the growers. They want very clean. It's only I'm giving very simple example. There are many things where quality is also an issue, and in some crops it's very difficult to grow for organic farming, like you say the case of brinjal. But definitely we can this is a very nice move, organic farming, and things will come, good molecules come. So at least we can, if we can go for the safer molecule, say, and judicious use of chemical, so that also should be a part of this organic farming. Now I will talk about Sumitomo Chemical. Everybody knows Sumitomo is a very big company in the world. We are dealing with petrochemicals. We are dealing with banks. We are dealing with LEDs. We are dealing with insurances. There's so many fields where Sumitomo as a corporation deal. But I'll talk about Sumitomo Chemicals about India. If we see, we have a very diversified portfolio in India. We see we have 3 divisions here. One is agriculture, one is ASD, animal nutrition division, AND, and EHD, and ASD. So we have three divisions. So our business is maximum from agro division and rest is very less business. Here also we have generics and our specialty product, which are our research product. So we have 73% business is with generics and 27% business is with our specialty products. So Sumitomo being a very large company represent almost all aspect: herbicide, fungicide, metal phosphides, PGR, insecticide. So we have 52% business for insecticide, 19% business for herbicide, 12% business for PGR, plant growth regulator, like Progib. I will come to that. Metal phosphide and fungicides, we have around 9% business. So about the products which Sumitomo, major products we are having here is glyphosate. I think everybody knows about glyphosate, need not to elaborate much. It's a non-selective herbicide being used on bunds and channel, gardens, everywhere it is used. Very nice herbicide. Last time this had certain issues in US, even in our country also, but it's such a wonderful molecule. Some of the country has taken back this molecule, like Vietnam and other countries. They are considering again. Earlier they have banned. So because of some problem, but if judicious use and timely use is going on, this is a wonderful molecule. Profenofos, it's very good for mites and Lepidopteran pest, mainly used in cotton and soybean. Dentotsu, this is clothadenonin. This is a molecule is one of the latest neonicotinoids, and I'm telling this is different than all other neonicotinoids. It's very good against coleoptera pest. You see the coleoptera pest like white grub, they are a threat to the crops in sugarcane and groundnut. And none other molecule is working as good as Dentotsu, but it's a very nice molecule for our sucking pest complex. Tabuconazole, I think Dr. Gupta might be knowing better. Tabuconazole is a fungicide which is used on many crops, wheat, soybean, chili, very safe fungicide and can control almost all the disease bearing some classes. Prozib. What is Prozib? It's a plant growth regulator. Basically, this is Sumitomo research. What happened? There is a disease in the paddy crop, which is a foot rot, we can say. So where plants becomes a little elongated. And some scientists from Japanese, they say why it is elongating. Then they found this is all due to the fungus. That fungus is responsible for elongation. So they derived that fungus, and ultimately we have developed different GAs, gibberellic acid, GA1, GA2, GA3. And now GA3 is used for cell division, for dormancy break, many other purpose. It's wonderful. And it has given OMRI certification. It can go to the all organic farming. There is no chemical used in it. It is just by fermentation we are getting it. Aluminium phosphide, everybody knows. Color pyriphos, insecticide, now it's in the banned list. Then animal nutrition, we have this methionine, so for poultry. So we have many more products. Actually, I'm just showing these important products. I will talk about some products which are very important for this organic farming, which Sumitomo is doing. Now, what's the benefit with us? If you see, in the last few years, expenses on research sides are declining. But with Sumitomo, because Sumitomo India has a big shareholding of Sumitomo Japan. So they say they have a big say in our R&D. They have a big say in the products we are getting from outside. And you see here the expenses is 8.8% of the total revenue, and during FY 17, then 18 is at 8.6%, and FY 19, financial year 19, it is 8.7%. So I think very good amount is going on in research for as R&D expenses from Sumitomo, because Sumitomo believes in safer molecules. And Sumitomo is exporter of its molecules. More than 60 countries we are exporting our molecules, like North America, South America, Europe, Asia, Japan, and Africa. And our export is, if we see, we are exporting all kind of molecules, which include insecticide, herbicide, this plant growth regulator, metal phosphides, fungicides, A&D and EHD, this environmental health and this animal nutrition division products. So we are exporting to different countries, around 60 countries we are exporting. And our major junk for export is insecticide, then comes herbicide, PGR we are exporting 11%, metal phosphide 8%, fungicide 8%, A&D and EHD we are exporting around 6%. So we have say in all the well diversified across multiple dimensions, maybe business segment, products, geographies, customers, crop solutions. So now question was about the what our company is thinking about this. I am telling Sumitomo has acquired Valent Bioscience in US. Everybody can just go to Valent Bioscience website and will see we have so many products which are organic in nature. Most of the products are organic certified. Now for Himachal, this quality farmers are using, growers are using on apple promelin, and they are importing it from USA, illegal import, because this is our basic molecule. Now we have conducted our trials, institutional trials are over, file is submitted to CIB for registration. Anytime may get this registration of this molecule. So this is also a organic certified product, and there is no issue. It can go in the organic farming. So it gives a very good shape to the apple, size of the apple, and it reduces the rusting in apple. Very nice molecule which is coming soon. Other molecules like Nature Deep. This is also a totally organic in nature. This is mycorrhiza, a fungus, which due to symbiotic relationship with the plants, many crops. So it gives, when symbiosis goes on, so root there becomes like a web, and more nutrition they are taking from the soil, and they can, even plants can tolerate some stress condition of water also, because roots goes little on the lower side of the soil, and very big increase in the yield. This is also organic nature. Dipel, I think everybody knows about Dipel. This is a biological insecticide, Bacillus thuringiensis, variety Kurtski. So this is #1 broad in the world. The tried and true lab control against all important lab pests. This is the molecule when you see in the, this is also OMRI certified product. OMRI certified, can be used in organic farming. Nothing, very safe, no period, no harvest period, no interval for that. So I remember when this cabbage, cauliflower, we are using Plutella xylostella, and insect was the major problem there. And farmer used to apply 2 times chemical application. Maybe morning he will spray something, evening he will dust something, and we eat some that cabbage and cauliflower, and we feel some giddiness. But we did not know it is all due to those pesticides which they are using. And then resistance was the main problem. It developed there. So then that time Sandoz bring one, and this Dipel also came. This kind of molecule came. These are for Lepidopterus, and very safe, gives a very nice control of the pest also. And there was no harvest interval, so farmer also can use and spray anytime this molecule. So I think that's all about what I would like to talk about the company, and that's all from my side.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kesh. It was really a wonderful talk. You have given lots and lots of information to our students and to all the faculty members as well. I'm sure that they will benefit out of this. There are some questions in there which have come, so maybe we don't have that much time, but I'd like you to give your impressions of these. One has come from Dr. Parvani, and she says that farmers, they are not that much conversant with ICT or other new technology. How can they be helped in this regard? And there is one more question which has come to me through WhatsApp also, that is there a possibility that your company or other industries or other companies in the industry, they can do something through CSR?
Yeah. Yeah, Dr. Negisab, it's a very nice questions actually. I would like to say industries always that we know that farmers are not very much conversant for new technologies. I will just latest example I am telling. Now you see locust is a very big problem. It is coming Rajasthan, it has come Madhya Pradesh, it has come, and locust is such a pest which just finish everything, and just like famine situation it creates. So our company Sumitomo, what they have bring a new technology here with the drone, because locusts fly and they rest during night hours on the trees. So we have come with the drone technology, and which farmer has appreciated, and companies always actually in coordination with the agriculture universities having this kind of interaction with the growers. Even we are recruiting all good PhD MSc guys in our company, so they are also time to time actually our field officers are going to the farmers, making them conversant about the new technologies. So we are doing all that. You say okay, some CSR activity. I think we are doing a lot on this aspect, even covering other aspects also. Sometime in Himachal there was a water problem. I think Syngenta that time as I was working, and they have taken a big project there in that village, and they have do that water. So we have CSR also. We have otherwise also we have budget like safe use of pesticides, how to spray, and we are doing in collaboration with the government machinery also. So that
Thank you, sir. And there is one, maybe we have time, Dr. Kamalkant would tell this to us. We have one query from, 2-3 queries on the same aspect from our students. They are worried that is zero budget natural farming the answer for future farming, because given the results that chemical fertilizer or the green revolution has given us, there is always a doubt that this may not be the answers. What do you expect?
I think this is the question for all over. This is at a very initial stage. Lot of things has to be done first to confirm that whether it is working or not. Lot of large scale trials has to be needed, because India is a country which cannot afford to lose yield at the moment. Not matlab. And zero budget is just for saying it's not zero budget. Lot of expenses are there. So
Yeah.
I think they have to integrate the things. They have to integrate the things. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for zero budget or organic farmers. What I was showing in the 25 years, we are only not covering 1.4% area under organic farming, pure organic farming. So there should be some changes, maybe good molecules, safe molecules, but they are the need of the time. Yeah.
There is again one question which relates to crop residues. In fact, 2 questions.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility that we can have, there has been a research for quite a long going on this, but given that now the people are emphasizing more organic farming, is there a possibility that some new molecules or some safe pesticides with better what you call safety regard can be given by the industry?
Sir, you see, industry is working on that line. Industry is working on that line. And now Sumitomo, I can say, now company has taken a decision. We'll give the molecules only green triangle molecule, which are quite safe, quite safe. So no red triangle molecule, they are safe for everything. Regarding, you say this crop management, crop residue management, really it's a big issue. It's a big thing. It's not that easy. But now I'm telling, because government is doing a lot. Expenses are very high, very even 80% up to subsidies are giving on the machines. Crop residues can be managed. And because of strict law, last year burning was very less, and you see a lot of loss in the nutrition and other things due to burning. But like happy seeder, super Satra management, paddy Satra chopper, lot of things are coming, like rotavator. Last year I could see farmers, especially in Punjab, have managed the residue in the areas like anything. New machinery has come. Even companies are developing molecules which can rotten the standing Satra. and even technologically, like companies are promoting now, okay, go with government is promoting zero drill. So a lot of demonstration, lot of things are required to do in the field, but definitely it's the need of the time to manage the crop residues. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. And the last one, one more question is there. Then Dr. Gupta, maybe he has got some few questions. There is one question from our student, Vishal Mehta. He wants to know that what are the opportunities in pesticide industry for agripreneurship or agri-entrepreneurship?
Yeah, uh, it's a very good question actually. As I was showing in presentation also, because it is not only because of pandemic, otherwise also there are big scope in agriculture. Agriculture and allied industries, there is no dearth actually in the scope. And now you see importance of agriculture was recognized during 1960 and 70 when Green Revolution came, and now it is at the peak. Now it's at the peak actually, need of the agriculture. I think agriculture people should take with what I was telling earlier. It was not the trend, but there is a big scope in agriculture. You see now, every day it is coming, this industry has retrenched 100 employees, this industry 35. Now I was reading just now HSBC of US company, they are retrenching 35,000 employees. But have you ever listened in pandemic or after, okay, this any big multinational company or local company has retrenched anybody? Even they require more. So I think we should not worry.
I think there was one good point in your presentation also, where you said that this agriculture is now a preferred career that youngsters are taking. Previously, it was not. So that was really a good observation from your side, and we hope that there will be some more questions. Dr. Gupta, if you have to say something, please.
Thank you, Dr. Rakesh. It's a very good talk. You covered almost all the topics, current topics, and it's a very fine talk. And I hope our students must have learned so much about this from this talk. And I want to just have one query that or clarification that in India now you already know that 27 molecules are going to be banned, and they were all broad spectrum and cheap chemicals. And what do you think that they will impact our production or cost of production also? So what is your view about that?
Yeah, Dr. Gupta, it's a very recent talk and recent question actually. Banning of 27 molecules seems not a wise decision. The products which are taken, which are covering our 80% market, those products are banned, like chlorol, very cheap molecules for India. What will happen if these products are banned? Definitely it will have an impact on our agriculture. Farmers cannot afford. If the same technology for the same pest, they use pesticide, imported pesticide, what will happen? Cost will increase like anything. Suppose this molecule cost is around 250, 300 per acre, then cost will go to 1200 to 1500 per acre. Now government is considering, there was some talk that we are exporting these molecules more than 12,000 crore per annum, these molecules. So where that that will go, that all money will go to the China or other countries. Even the molecules banned, they were not banned anywhere in the world. Like sulfosulfuron herbicide, it is banned here, nowhere. It's used in all the big countries. I think government should reconsider. In my view, it will have a very negative impact on agriculture as a whole. Actually,
yeah. Very nice. So that's how
I have one. Dr. Gupta, I have one question from Dr. K. Kumar.
Yeah.
Who wants to get the views of our honored guest today, that will there be an upsurge in use of pesticides in the times to come, given that there is too much of emphasis on organic farming or zero budget natural farming?
Yeah, definitely it's a good step for organic farming. But what I say, organic, it should be part actually. It should be not, okay, we will not use any chemical, but there are certain safer molecules, and there are molecules like which I talked, like Delphin, like our this Dipel, So this kind of molecule, like we have other some insect called gentry we have. So these molecule is the need of the time. Definitely, if we are giving the safer, if we are using the safer chemicals, so it is good for us, and health consciousness is coming among people. I think it will take time to be more on organic farming, and but definitely this is a welcome step.
And one of our colleagues, Dr. K.C. Sharma, wants to know some more chemicals which are in the safe mode to be used. You have some more names which can be termed as safer from the point of view of crop residues and
Yeah.
others.
Actually, for crop residue, I think one chemical is developed which gives rotting of the residue, and that's good. But at the same time, there are many molecules are coming. They are safe. If they are green triangle, they are more safe. Like this, our paddy. I'm saying about paddy. Now we are talking about zero drilling or zero sowing, zero direct seeded sowing. So here what is happening, we have molecules earlier, because herbicide is a big problem. Weeds are a very big challenge in the direct seeded rice. So we have molecule in that direction also. And I think now most of the companies, they are bringing safe molecules in the market, like CTPR, like our many molecules, they are green triangle. I'm talking about the neonicotinoid group, triazole group. These all molecules are quite safe molecules. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe I did not get the question right, but he is also talking something about those which are registered under CIB.
Yeah, I'm talking all registered molecule only.
Okay. And then we have one last.
Gentry and Promelin, which I showed, they are this Promelin is under process, maybe registered this year only. So many molecules are in the some one new we are giving in grain. That is again a very OMRI certified product. So which will help in filling up the grains, and yield will increase. That is also in pipeline. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. One last question, maybe, or maybe Dr. Gupta has some more, but there is one of our participants wants to know that is there any effective pesticide against desert locust?
Yeah, there are molecules effective. Presently, we have two molecules, chlorpyrifos and this malathion. They are going on locust. But here, because this is a student's question, I would like to tell him it's difficult to apply the chemical, because they rest during night and morning they again take flight and eat. So they may be sitting in the desert area on the trees or other way. So that is the time when we have to apply some chemical there. So there are effective molecules, but application technology have to improve. But I told you, Sumitomo is going in this direction, and with drone application, we have a big praise from the government also. And last year we have done a lot of work with drone. Yes, there are molecules.
Thank you very much. Sanjay must have really benefited from this answer. And Gupta ji, you have some.
I think we should adopt integrated pest management that have all components like host resistance, biological control, then cultural practices, different cultural practices, how we can manage our residues also and others, and to avoid the contact of insect and the host, or pest and the host. And in last, we can add pesticide also to keep the level of the residues very low, and we have to apply only the chemical at a pesticide at a critical stage. So one should follow chemicals very judiciously, and it will certainly have impact if we will ban the pesticide, or we will reduce the use of pesticide drastically. So I think it's a very good talk, and Dr. Rakesh explained all the thing in a very nice way. Thank you very much. Dr. Negi, if you want to say something.
Finally, I think there is one more question that relates to Himachal Pradesh. Rakesh sir, we would like to know, one participant wants to know that is there something that can be done for storage during the storage time to reduce the losses of fruits and vegetables and other crops?
Yeah, actually, it's very true.
What
We
strategy
have,
can be adopted? Maybe
ah,
because there cannot be one chemical for that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, actually, storage is a big problem, and before even we have to take action during the crop when fruits are on the trees only, apples are on the trees only. We have to go
Right, sir.
some chemical, and basically, because we are trying some molecules, so which increasing the shelf life of the crops, and definitely, lot of companies are working on this direction for the shelf life should increase. Otherwise, cold storage and other, these are the things actually, nothing actually additional at the moment we have, which we can offer or we can say like that. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. It was really enlightening, and all of us benefited a lot from your talk. I'm sure that we'll trouble you some other time as well, and you'll oblige us. I would like to again thank you for your in-depth discussions on the chemicals particularly and the works that your company is doing. And maybe in times to come in future, we'll have some opportunities to work with you where our students can also be guided under your control and so on and so forth. Thank you very much, sir. And I will also like to thank all the participants who have joined us, and I hope that they benefited out of this. We'll continue with this endeavor, and in future, we'll continue to bring more and more personalities from the industry as well as from academic institute to this webinar. And I'm sure that it will benefit our students as well as the general participant as much. Finally, I would like to thank Dr. Kamal Kant also for his great support that he has given us in organizing this webinar or expert talk. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Rakesh. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
After.
Thank you.